Hello and welcome to this week's episode of ThinkTank Thursday. I'm Denise Kayln with Trainertainment in the Growth Pro Group, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us today. Before we get started, I'd love to take a moment to thank our 2025 digital sponsors. We appreciate their support, which helps us offer you new episodes of ThinkTank Thursday each and every week. Well, as you know, on Thursdays, we like to take a little bit of a break from the doing and spend just a little bit of time thinking. And this week on ThinkTank Thursday, we're going to be talking about marketing and how to really up your marketing game, especially if you have multiple brands. Today, we're going to be speaking with Kaylyn New with Roller, and let's go ahead and get started and hear what she has to say. Kaylyn, welcome from down under. We're so excited to have you as part of ThinkTank Thursday.
Thank you so much for having me. And apologies, I don't have an Australian accent.
Well, you are a Wisconsin native who is living in Australia, so we'll forgive you. Kaylyn, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for Roller.
Sure. I am the VP of Product and Customer Marketing at Roller. I've been here for about 3 years. As you said, I'm Wisconsin native, but I've lived in Australia kind of all of my adult life for the last 16 years or so. I'm based just north of Sydney with my husband and my 2 young boys.
So wonderful. And I love your perspective of being able to bring truly how to manage a global brand. So whether it is an international company like Roller or a one person, one shop FEC, or an organization that has maybe 2 or 3 different locations, there's some through points here I think that are important. And today we're going to be talking about the challenges and how to overcome those challenges of marketing to multiple different places and demographics. Certainly, at any given moment, a standard FEC is going to be marketing their sales for birthday parties, their sales for group and corporate events, their walk-in traffic, bringing people into the door. Maybe it's the 4th of July special that they're going to be holding or something of the like. And so there's multiple messages at any given time that you want to promote, but how do you do that without losing the brand, and how do you do that effectively is really the big challenge.
So I guess at Roller, as you mentioned, we're just a single brand, but we are a global company. So we operate in over 30 countries. And we kind of cater to all types of attractions from, a single location play center all the way through, multi-location franchise, like the likes of Sky Zone or Altitude trampoline parks that have, hundreds of locations. And then within that, we've got different, I guess, personas that we talk to as well within, all of those different aspects. And prior to Roller, I was at a company that was a portfolio of brands. So I've got lots of experience kind of trying to maintain that single brand consistency, but then flexing it to talk to different demographics. So I guess the thing that I think is the most important to start with that can be that through line for all of the ways that you market and talk about your brand is really having a strong purpose. So a mission that really resonates across all of those segments I mentioned that can really anchor everything and articulate kind of why you exist, what's your higher purpose, and kind of serve as that unifying force across all of your messaging. So, for example, at Roller, our purpose is to help create experiences that bring joy and happiness to the world. And this kind of resonates, like I mentioned, with small indoor play centers, large enterprise attractions, and everything in between. And having that really strong mission and that why your brand exists is, like I said, a really great anchor point to then everything else that you want to talk about in terms of the brand.
So, and before you even think about what your marketing message is going to be specifically, having that foundation is really essential. How do you find for those people that in organizations that maybe don't have a mission statement or don't have core values, how do you create those?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to especially like that founder or that owner as to why they started the business in the first place. I've spoken to so many of our customers and venue operators that saw a gap in the market. Maybe they had small children themselves, and there was nothing in the area that really served that purpose. I recently spoke to a venue operator who felt like they had a COVID baby. I have a COVID baby as well, coming out of COVID really didn't have that sense of like connection and community with other parents with children that age. So for that operator, kind of that was the purpose, is to bring folks together and create that place, that sense of community. So I would really encourage like the founder or the owner to kind of go back to the beginning. Or if they're thinking of starting a venue, what's that driving purpose? What's going to get them out of bed every day? And kind of what they're hoping to bring to their guests.
Mhm. And finding that unique selling point. What makes you special? Especially when a market is flooded with so many different options, you kind of got to dig deep and find what makes you special.
100%. And I think, I'm not saying anything that operators wouldn't already know, but you're not just competing with other venues in the area. Like it's all that discretionary spend where folks might decide to go out to dinner or go to a movie or go to a sporting event. So I think being really strong in that purpose and that unique value prop, like you said, is really important.
Okay, so you've got your purpose, you've got your core, your foundation. What what do you do next? How do you figure out how to strategically market instead of just blasting a whole bunch of messages?
Yeah, great question. And this is like right in my wheelhouse is product marketing. This is the kind of stuff that I really love. So whether or not folks have heard of this term positioning, it can feel like maybe marketing fluff, which I totally appreciate. But it's kind of that next step from the mission, whereas the mission is that why and that purpose. Positioning is all about what you offer and how you differ from your competitors. So when I think about positioning, it allows you to have that strategic flex point when we talked about marketing to different audiences. Your positioning should really clearly define kind of what you offer, how you do it, and then how you do it better. But again, this is where you can kind of flex that message based on the audience. So for example, at Roller, for our more SMB venues, we really emphasize Roller as an all-in-one system that helps venues consolidate their tools, that simplifies staff training and reduces complexity. But then when we think about our enterprise customers, we really highlight our open API and our modular architecture that reinforces that there are no dead ends and they can build what works for their ecosystem. But that's sort of all over the umbrella of Roller helps you drive revenue, save time, and deliver better guest experiences. So those three value pillars of boost revenue, save time, and deliver better guest experiences are kind of where all of our positioning is rooted in. And then again, depending on the audience, with the examples I gave, we kind of can flex that depending on what is the most important message for that key audience.
So you wouldn't try to hit all three of those potential customer groups with the same messaging.
Agree. Yeah, because I think they're all looking for something different. And I think that, I'm coming at it from a SaaS, like software background, but it's totally applicable to any other industry. When you think about, what a venue offers, they may be offering a membership program, which would be something that, would be a different value prop to just a one-off day pass or session pass. They're looking for something different, whether they're talking to the local community versus folks that have come from out of town. I think, again, that's a different message again of what's important to someone who's local to the area versus who's visiting and only has limited time to spend. Whether they're marketing, a party or group booking experience versus just a one-off, day pass. I think that kind of having that strong mission and then those sort of positioning value props allows you to then kind of lean into one or the other depending on the audience.
And the process of figuring out which medium to approach each of those different groups is also an important part of that strategy.
Yes, 100%. I think it all needs to be rooted in like real world context. So, making sure that what you're promising is actually the value that your guests are experiencing. So, I think a really great way to kind of sense check this, or when you're thinking about creating this positioning, if you don't already have it, is just to talk to folks, whether that is like, as they come into the venue or, sending out a survey with a couple of questions just to really kind of sense check your own perspective and bias. I think it can be really easy, to just self validate what you think is best. But I think it's not obviously going to resonate with folks if, it's not rooted in that kind of real world context. So, I would encourage folks to speak to their guests again, whether that's just like one to one as in the at the counter as they're interacting with a guest, or if they have a stronger loyal database that they feel they can kind of ring up and have a conversation, or like I said, send out a survey and ask a couple of questions to validate kind of what's most important to them.
And it's such an important point that I think it deserves to be said again. You shouldn't promise something that you can't deliver,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And so often, what we think and perceive, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, isn't necessarily how our customer is receiving that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it depends on kind of what your role in the venue is too. Like if you're a one man or woman show and you're kind of doing everything, you probably have a more diverse perspective from, working back office, the front office, etc. But if you are not, in the venue day after day, and are a bit more removed from that direct guest interaction, I think, yeah, it's really important to spend the time and the resources to validate all of that with guests, to make sure, like you said, you're not making a promise that you can't keep.
Right, right. Okay, so you figured out your purpose, you figured out your strategic positioning. Now, how do you personalize it by keeping the brand throughout each of those separate messages to the different customers?
Yeah, so I would say kind of the next step here is then to create what are those key segments or those key personas or buyer personas that you want to talk to. So whether that is based on like the example I used before, like a local guest versus someone coming from out of town, or for your core offering versus a birthday party or membership offering. Or if you've got, multiple brands or multiple locations, maybe the demographic is slightly different, or what you're offering is slightly different. So I would start there and kind of think about, okay, what are those, maybe 3 to 5. I think anything more than that can get um, a bit hard to manage and maybe a bit too granular. So I would say maybe think of those 3 to 5 different segments or personas, of what's important to them, and make sure that all of that messaging and expression ladders back up to that single consistent brand narrative. So you've kind of got that through line of you've got your mission, you've kind of got what are those key value props and how you position those. And then this is sort of that next layer down, making sure again that it's that real consistent message all the way through. So for roller, for instance, whether I'm speaking to kind of a solo operator or a corporate buyer, on the other end of the spectrum, really try to make sure that the tone and the design and the core value of roller really remains recognizable and aligned all the way through. So, a promise that we have for our product is that roller will streamline operations. And we spend a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time talking to our customers and hearing their stories, and then using that as sort of social proof in market to show that, again, that promise that we have of streamlining operations is then backed by these stories. It's rooted in real world context, and that it's not just, lip surface. It's something that venues are actually achieving with the product.
And one thing that you hit on too that I think is so important is limiting you can't put 57 things in one message, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, is picking, let's get this three things that this is what we're going to focus on. You can't put everything in
Yeah.
to one message.
Yes, I think exactly right. It's the power of three, right? Like that's the case in anything. So as I said for Roller, we promise that we will help you boost your revenue, save time, and streamline operations. There's obviously a lot of detail within each one of those, so I guess you kind of have to try to find that balance of um, not going too granular and not having it so high level that it's sort of not a concrete concept. So this is kind of a process. This positioning process is something that I would recommend revisiting like every 6 to 12 months as well, just to make sure that it's still aligned with your brand vision. If things in market have changed, if you have new competitors in your area, if you've added additional attractions or changed up your food and beverage offering or whatever that may be, just kind of doing a review every 6 to 12 months to make sure that it's still aligned and it's still current with what you're offering. Positioning is definitely not something that is set in stone, and like I said, should be reviewed kind of every 6 to 12 months, or if something massive changes in the market or in your business.
Excellent. So if a new competitor opens up, you want to re-look at and maybe do some tweaking to
Yeah.
your positioning, right?
Yep, exactly. And I think you can get really creative with how this is kind of the magic, right? Like you can get really creative with how you position yourself. Like in that example you gave, if a new competitor comes in and say their offering is very similar to yours, I think it's something that then you could lean into being there first. So, you're the established choice. You've been serving the community for X amount of years. Like all of a sudden that may be something in your positioning that you didn't really lean into prior because you didn't need to. But now, because the market's changed and you've got this new competitor, might be something that you want to lean into to kind of give people that trust that, oh, they've been around for a while. Their guests are really happy. That's going to be the choice for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've been working with one of the clients that I work with, and they're local, owned and operated by local folks, and a large chain has recently come in, and we're talking about strategically the we're local, we're from here, we're a part of this community is a big
Totally.
important message right now.
Yeah, which maybe wasn't the case previously. They
That's
wouldn't
right.
have, lent into that as much. Yeah.
That's exactly it. So yeah, so having that reviewing when something new changes is important. But even if big things haven't changed, every 6 to 12 months, you should be re-examining this.
Yeah. And maybe it's just to say like, yep, tick, green light. I've done it's good as it is. Nothing's changed. We're still good to go. But I guess just not leaving it too long, because all these little things can happen, week in, week out, that you don't really notice. But if you maybe, zoom out and take a step back after 6, 9, 12 months, all the collection of those little things mean that, maybe some tweaks are needed.
Absolutely. Oh, this is fantastic. And so I love this process. And again, the power of threes. There's three
Hmm.
steps, right?
Yeah, there
Uh,
is. Yeah.
there's three steps, which is great. So you're starting with your purpose. Make sure you know what you're talking about. What's the
Yeah. Your
heart? What's
why.
the core of who you are and the why? And then your positioning statements and the strategery. Is that a word? Can we make that work now?
That's a word. Yeah.
The strategy, the strategic use of that, and then making sure that you are specific, finding who you're really targeting, and that you're being clear with that message that aligns with your brand all the way through, regardless of if you're talking to local folks or people who are in from out of town, that core why is still a part of that messaging.
Yeah, exactly. Nailed it, Denise.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh, this is such good stuff. Ms. Kaylin, we are quickly running out of time, so let me ask you the trainertainment question. We are all about growth here at Trainertainment, so love to ask you, what do you do to grow yourself?
Well, maybe this is a boring answer, but I'm a huge book nerd, whether that be kind of for fun or for work. So I read a lot of business books or, books in the industry. I guess to stay current and understand like what's changed in my kind of area. But one book that I would highly, highly recommend if people are interested in this process I spoke about positioning. There's an author named April Dunford. She's a product marketing. We call her like she's the queen of product marketing in my world. She has works as a consultant, comes into businesses to help them run this positioning process. But she's written a book called Obviously Awesome, and it basically takes you through step by step. It's very much like I could go read the book and then go run this workshop with my team. It's very like a guided process. I would highly recommend that book. It's a really easy read. It's not too big. I come back to it time and time again just to kind of remind myself of, all the little steps and all of that. She's also written a second book called Sales Pitch, which basically takes all of that positioning work. It's like a sequel to her first book of then how do you put that messaging into the hands of like your sales reps or into your frontline staff and making sure that everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. So if there's any readers of in your listener group, then I would highly recommend that book.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. We'll have those up so people can take a look at the covers as well. That's great. Miss Kaylin, how can people get in touch with you if they have questions?
Yes, just find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active. You can find me there or through the Roller LinkedIn. I manage that account as well. So, yes, happy to chat, happy to answer any questions if anyone's interested.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time meld that you did to make this happen since you are
No
in
worries.
Australia. And appreciate your time and certainly your insights and thoughts. This is a really great way for people to look at what they're doing with their marketing and be more strategic and intentional with their messages. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Denise.
Well, I hope you took some good notes because there's a lot to offer from what Kaylyn has to say. I'm looking forward to seeing how we can help deploy some of these strategies with some of our customers, and I hope you do too. Before we go, though, I would like to thank our sponsors one more time for all that they do to help support us in bringing you Think Tank Thursday each and every week. If you have an idea for Think Tank Thursday, I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at denise@trainertainment.net. Well, thanks for tuning in to today's episode, and remember that the journey to success is all about growth, and here at Trainertainment, we're here to help you thrive. Visit trainertainment.net to learn how we can support you in your growth journey for yourself, your team, your business by setting up a free growth call with one of our coaches. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for the extraordinary.
Playthrough is an online scoring system for mini golf courses. Simply post a QR code near the first hole. Golfers scan it with any mobile phone, add their golfers, and start entering scores. They can easily view their group leaderboard or the course leaderboards. Playthrough also includes features like whole sponsor logos and whole transition ads to help grow your business. Visit playthroughmini.com to see what else Playthrough can do.